You feeling hot?
Boiling.
Very hot indeed, Robert.
Very hot and raring to go. So we'll be coming up to our start, which will be 12:15, and then we're going to carry on from there.
Yeah. Very
recording buttons away.
It's very exciting to be here again, isn't it? You know, like you just go, oh, I haven't done a digital event for a while now.
It's what we do. Right, now calm down, you lot, calm down, and let's get on with this properly. Welcome everyone to the live ICE stream. So it's Thursday, it's the 22nd. We finished ICE for another year. So ICE Awards, another year, another ICE Awards, and it doesn't get any easier. So in the interest of transparency, as always, I've got Jen Parkin, who is the marketing director at ICE. I've got Anita Howard, who is, it says co-founder on the screen, but founder. These two ladies are the heart of ICE. And what we're going to do is what we always do is after we've done an event, we're going to share with you what we learned, what hurt, what we like doing, and what we're going to do next. So what I'd like to talk about first and foremost is, you know, when you're doing an event, you're planning an event. Planning an event in 2021 was ridiculous. So, Anita, what were you planning for? Were you planning for a live event? Were you planning for a virtual event? Had hybrid been invented when you were planning for this? What happened?
So, well, the excitement of it, can I say, and it has been great fun. And one of the things I want to make sure is people ask lots of questions of what we did, because obviously we've got half an hour, haven't we? So one of the things—
I should have said it's being recorded and we've got chat. So join in, you kiddies. Everything that comes on the chat will be pushed through to Anita and Jen.
Perfect, lovely, wonderful. So look, we started off in January and we are called Mrs. and Mrs. Positive, me and Jen are. We always look to the future. And obviously after ICE last year, we decided that we would do a hybrid because of the audience numbers that we got, which was fantastic. And then in January, we made the decision to go live and digital as well. So we had started planning from a very early stage. And our steering group, who are just amazing, they supported us and they said, look, you can't make the final decision about going live until April, until we have a clearer view of where we are. So basically April came and we kind of like, I don't know, naively carried on being positive. And we basically decided that's it, we're going to be going digital, so as well as hybrid. So we went for it. And I assumed open day came on the 21st of June. We could have, 200, 300 people in the room, and we'd have, sort of like 100 online. So obviously that all changed, and it really did go into mad world of actually organising this event. And one of the biggest pressures we had was actually the issue about social distancing, changing the live event into a social, restricted event. So we ended up—
When did that happen? Because at the beginning, when you planned this in January, the limit must have been what, 30 people then?
Yeah, 30 people, absolutely. And we assumed then we could have millions, but then we obviously had to stop. It was kind of like stop. And we were naive, but we like to think that this is going to come back. So we actually did a great, the event was very successful. We got 316 people in total attending the event, and 126 of them were live. We had to restrict the live numbers, even though we had the right size venue, because of social distancing. So that was kind of like our big kind of thing that we had to start planning for. So the biggest thing that I think from a pre-event point of view of organising an event, forget all the restrictions, because I can see them still being in place, is that you need two teams. Like, we cannot no longer think of just doing an event. Everyone's talking about it, but, and I've listened to loads of stuff, but this whole thing of going, right, okay, two teams, one dealing with live, one dealing with digital, and then merging the two together. What we did, we merged them together and had like a two-sided document of what was happening live and what was happening digital, and they should have been separate documents that we should merge together. So that's kind of like from—
Just break that down for us a little bit. So what you're saying is it's not one event, it's actually two events, but they're synchronous.
Yes, Absolutely. And, you know, everyone's talking about this, but until you actually do it, and that is my biggest thing, the team size. You know, we are a perfectly formed team normally, and we get loads of help from lots of great people. But that was a real big issue, is actually working out this two-team thing. And I think Jen, you know,
yeah, and we'll come back to that. I'll come back to that in a minute. Jen,
yeah.
So we're doing marketing. Obviously, marketing at this stage is everything, because, you know, we don't really know what's going to happen. How did it change not knowing what you were marketing for?
Well, it was quite difficult. I mean, what we would try to do is, just from a marketing point of view, you know, we used to do marketing for digital, but because there was a virtual element out there, we had to make sure that, you know, there was more content required to keep that excitement alive. So, you know, we planned to do it on just a whole bunch. We merged it all together. So, you know, just to go back to what Anita was saying, we definitely need more people. It's 2 events. You know, usually we manage, we work brilliant together. We have great laughs. We have, you know, we share everything. And but I think around 6 weeks before the event, it was becoming apparent we needed help. So we needed dedicated staff managing our support and responding to inquiries quickly, and just somebody dealing with the registration from the beginning, somebody dealing with virtual delegates, live delegates, all our communications about the safety aspect. We just needed that person. And I think, like Anita says, we're a bit naive on this bit, and I think we left it far too late to get somebody to pick this up. So we did have help, but they weren't in it from the beginning. So as registrations were coming along, we dealt with it, and we changed things. The communication was just colossal, because, you know, we were doing it for the live delegates and for the virtual delegates, wanting to keep them engaged together, but also making sure that the virtual people had kept engaged. You know, we worked so hard to keep them as a virtual audience. We didn't want to lose them. Yeah,
because the ICE community is that. It's a community, and you can't treat people differently, as you well know.
Exactly. So as well, and then we also had the live delegates communication, which we need to give clear join instructions, the important message of the safety aspect throughout the day. So, you know, it's quite difficult. It should be simple and easy, but it was quite difficult. And I think, sorry, go on.
You know, so I was just going to say, Jen, one of the things that we're going to do for the community, we're setting up a resource thing on our website to share some documents that we've produced that will actually help people with what we learned from doing the event. It's really going to be quite great, I think, to do that.
So coming back to that point, now, Jen just said you get to a certain point and then you realise that you're short of staff, or you're short of resource, really. And you said the same thing before we went to Jen. So Anita, if I can bring you back in there, what did you feel? Where were your pain points? What did you not have?
So I think one of the pain points,
apologies, we've lost Jen for the moment.
Yes, I was going to say her internet looked as if it was going down, so we'll bring her back in a few moments. The joys of technology. I think one of the biggest pain points is actually choosing the right suppliers that all get on together. So, you know, we had a really difficult situation with just the venue was quite a challenge for us. Is because basically
the venue was big enough. Why was it a challenge?
It's because of staffing. And I think this is one of the big pain points when we all go back to live, is that we have got such a big journey to actually get people trained up again. So one of the things that I'm thinking about is that, you know, the venue did not have enough knowledge. The people that have left working for the venue did not have enough knowledge. For example, you know, it's kind of like a 24-ton truck couldn't get through a certain bit, even though it was a walking thing.
You've got a weak bridge approaching it, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either.
It was a really, really difficult one. And there's also a learning point of health and safety. I think one of the really important things is that, you know, from a health and safety point of view, you actually had a problem where we had one contractor, and then we had another contractor who had different health and safety officers. And basically what happened, the health and safety officers were disagreeing with how we should run the live event. So it was a really interesting scenario that one was saying, no, you can't do different coloured lanyards. And the other one was saying, yes, you can, because that's more safe, because people will stop hugging, because you couldn't stop the hugging, you know, when people are live. So I think all of this, when we get back, I think everyone needs to be aware that the teams that we are used to in venues and other places are not used to being live either. So that was a really interesting curve.
That's been found all over the place. I know I've got friends in France, and they said that when they first went back, you know, last year, no one knew, they'd lost all the talent and no one knew how to do anything. He said it was like working with people who had forgotten how to do an event.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, you know, so we've been working with various members of the team for years, and they're freelancers and they're amazing and wonderful, and they are still amazing. But the big issue is no one's done a live event for many, many months now. And it's not like getting on a bike sometimes. People are getting panicked by people in front of them as well. I think that's quite a big issue for even speakers. You know, when I stood up on stage, seeing 100 people in front of me was quite daunting when you've only ever seen like 3 people, you know. So I think that's quite a big learning that I would say that we need to, you know.
Can I bring Jen in here? So we've got all these changes, and we've established the fact that, you know, restarting events is actually a restart, and we've lost a lot of talent, and the way things have changed, we've broken our standardization model to a degree, and that makes it so we're reinventing things, and people are reinventing it as they go along differently. With the audience, Jen, I mean, how are they reacting to your marketing messages? Has their behavior changed?
So yes, in terms of they want the same experience, but they're very understanding. I thought everybody's very understanding of what we were trying to do, and you know, but they still needed that communication from us. So in terms of their behaviour, it's very much they haven't been to a live event. That was one of their first ones, so I don't think they knew what to expect, and it was up to us to make sure they felt safe. Same with the live virtual audience, we needed to make sure they were engaged. So yeah, but I think you know, we did put a lot in place for that. So, you know, the communication, again, that was huge. The tech side of it as well, I think, you know, we tried our best to do the Q&A sessions or Q&A within the portal. So, and we also had the attendee hub. So there's a lot of ways they could have networked and connected as well.
And do we know enough about the tech? Are we using the tech enough? Do we ask enough questions?
Yeah, that's one thing I would definitely do again. I mean, I'm not very, you know, I'm okay on tech, but I'd ask more questions. I was a bit shy to ask questions, and just asking, you know, what does that mean? What does that look like for both all the attendees? Who will be responsible for that? And I also think as well, asking your suppliers where they can to do demos. So, for example, the Q&A within the portal, our supplier did fantastic videos showing us exactly what to do back end and how to feed the questions through to the moderator. And that was great. And the same with we had the CVent attendee hub, and the team spent a good amount of time training me on certain scenarios of what could go wrong. You know, not necessarily go wrong, but if people didn't have their verification code and they couldn't get in. So, you know, just that tech side, there was a lot to learn, a lot.
Instead of 15 years of experience, you've got like 5 weeks.
Yeah, basically, and just us doing it as well. So that's, you know, the whole point for getting somebody on board so they knew that inside out, because on the day you're on the floor, and so you just needed that dedicated support helping with all that.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would suggest is, you know, if your provider, like DRPG were amazing, absolutely amazing, and we one of the things I think is that we could have had, you know, the Zoom tables went wrong again, you know, we're going to go for a third year. But, you know, like the CVent app, all these different bits of technology that we had streamed together, it was so difficult. It was really difficult because they were all working on different platforms. And I would try and stay on one platform and stop being ambitious. You know, we're always ambitious at ICE, but I would try and keep technology, or those technology partners you almost need a contractors meeting just for the technology partners, so they all know what they're meant to be doing, because we didn't do that, and I would definitely recommend that.
And in the past, you would have had, you know, venues and logistics people and health and safety and risk assessment and contractors all working together and so forth to the same thing. But you've got platforms at the moment who are trying to be the one-stop platform, and they're not actually, they're competing. They're not collaborating.
Yeah.
So we're not there yet with that.
Yeah, I think that whole thing about collaboration, you know, I think it will be very different in a few years' time, because younger people will be coming into it. They won't feel so protected of their technology. And I think it is amazing when they don't want to react to each other. You know, like it's very important that starts happening.
The possibilities of technology are limitless, but the relationships are still human. Yeah. And I think you're right. I love the idea of younger event professionals coming in and having that more co-creation. You know, the collaboration will be their superpower, and that's what will move things on. So having planned this, you then actually had a show. You actually, I think I sent an email saying you only bloody did it. So what, you know, you're there. What happened?
So, well, it was a bit of a shocker. And a lot of it, I think, is down to the stress before, because of the different channels and stuff like that. But I think we said there needs to be 2 teams prior to the event, you know, like working on digital and online, or you need 3 teams on site, because basically you've got the live event, you've got your live studio, because you need your studio. The DRPG studio was just colossal. You know, it kept it cohesive and kept people together.
For and the then that weren't there, explain what the setup was. Just picture it for them in a story format, so that people who weren't there can see, you know, what you were doing.
So we had a kind of iPad area, an exhibition area for people to hang out, and we had sustainability statements and mugs and all sorts of things like that. Very good, very good. I like that. Your badge for life, which didn't quite work, but anyway. And then basically they went into the main conference, again, obviously socially distanced. And then we had to the side a basic studio, which was a stage with 2 seats. And you have to make sure you get an MC for your studio. So Dale basically kindly stepped in, but it's something that we really need, you know, when you do an event like this, you need to get your MC sorted out, which is crazy.
Not. He stepped in to do that. I thought that was all planned.
It was planned, but he wasn't going to do as many, but he filled in gaps, which was amazing. You know, so this was a big learning curve. So, you know, on your ops schedule, the event starts at 1:30. So you have your callers in your exhibition area and call them in. Well, you need to do that 5 or 10 minutes. You usually do it 5 minutes before. You need to do it 10 minutes before, because you need people to be walking in as the studio happens. Because me and Dale at the beginning, we had to kind of ad-lib a few things, because we were waiting for them to finish their coffees. They were busy chatting, so they weren't coming in as quick. And the same happened in the evening.
They haven't seen each other for 18 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, breaking that up would have been a crime. And that's how people behave. Yeah,
but you've got to allow time in your schedule. Actually, the other thing that I think, I say digital here, you need another team for digital, is that so behind the studio to the left, or just to the left of the studio, there was the most amazing amount of kit I've ever seen at an event. So remember, we are a small event. There was flashing lights. That obviously it was very well done, but you know, we were in a great venue, and literally behind that there was a 70 square meter, 100 square meters worth of decks, cameras, crew. And you don't realize how much space that takes up now. So if you're running that, you need studio space and you need to have your other thing.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, but what you had was you had a live set, like a live awards set, spaced and distanced and so forth for it. And you had 126 people there, I think you said, and you've got all your speakers and whatever on top of that. And then you had a studio adjacent to that for the digital audience, correct?
Yes.
And then behind that, there was basically a TV studio, wasn't there? So it was a portable pop-up TV studio to make sure that you could do this live, stream it, and have a digital audience coming in as well. So how did that work for you, Jen?
Trying to, yeah, how? It was just, I've never seen anything like it before, and it was amazing to watch. It was carnage. But trying to keep that, I love the studio element because it gave the virtual audience something special, something to keep those people connected. But I think what Anita was saying, we wanted the people to walk in so you could have a sense of feeling of the hub. But again, trying to get that message out into the wide world on social, this is what it looks like. It was hard, hard to do that. But
how did you control the messaging? I mean, because there's so much going on. How did you control the messaging?
It was pre-planned. I did as much as we could beforehand, but we also wanted to make it feel like it was, it wasn't pre-planned. There was a lot of things I could schedule, but we wanted to make it feel that it was on the spot and, it was just there and then. So it was hard. We just, we got by, we did it. It was just...
Because you were live and you were live online. But Anita, where were the skill pain points or the skill shortages in doing something which is 3 times more complicated? I mean, if anyone's ever had a lot of kids and you put a coat on the first one and a coat on the second one, and by the time you put the coat on the third one, the first coat's coming off. I mean, what you just described to me is a bit like that. So
yeah.
What were the skill shortages? What do you need in the future?
So it was just the number in the team. So we had wonderful DRPG with just colossal, absolutely lovely. And I think they tried to almost warn us that this was, because obviously they'd done quite a lot. So it was just a team thing of having more bodies dealing with specific things rather than actually dealing with generic things. So usually at a live event, you've got it all pre-scheduled, you know who's going to win, you've got it all going, you've got someone in the room making comments, and that can't happen. You need different communications going out to the digital world compared to your live world.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you've got a bigger problem, does that mean that you simply have to break that bigger problem into smaller nuggets?
Yes, absolutely. And that's my big top tip for everyone. We're going to do a checklist for hybrid, like on our resource center, a checklist of things that we've learned and who's going to deal with it. So there's a whole list of things that I think are so easily sortable. And also, hopefully, we won't be in restrictions again, hopefully. But who knows what it's going to be like. But we will definitely plan for in a different way.
We won't, sooner or later we will not be restricted, but do you feel that we will still have digital? I mean, you had more people outside the room than inside the room.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm the best one, because this takes us on to the post-event thing, is I personally...
No, go for it. It's just,
Yeah, okay. I personally think is for certain kind of events, like employee engagements, the AGMs and those sorts of things, I think doing them hybrid will be essential. But I don't think, I think recording your event and making it look fantastic will be very, very important going forward. But I don't know if I'd run them at the same time, because you need your audience in the room to make your event flow. And the whole thing about ICE is sharing. And I felt that, for people being in the room, is that having people to share with and talk to and everything else, you need a good quantity and quality of people in the room. So yeah, I think there was a BBC study recently on people's reluctance to go to events. It's 27% of people saying they're wanting to go to events. And I think until COVID is over, I think it's always going to be quite a third of your audience will want to turn up live.
Yeah. And that kind of, in terms of human behavior, that's how it normally is. A third of people don't want to change. A third of people know they have to change, but don't know what to do. And a third of people embrace the change. That's always been like that in terms of behavior. And you're always going to be led by the live event, because that's the energy point of what it is that you're doing. But should you be designing the live event first or the digital event first and then make the live? when you're planning the future, what would you plan for? Would you plan for a digital and live event, or a live and digital event?
Live and digital for me.
Jen?
Yeah, same here. I think, you know, in terms of, you know, obviously content is the most important thing, and you've got to have the content to get the live people to come in is really important, because it's so easy to, you know, to say, well, I'll just attend virtually. But I think with the excitement with live delegates, it's a lot easier to build excitement up. With the virtual ones, you have to, with communication, you have to help build that excitement up. So yeah, I agree with Anita on that. And live, yeah.
What do you think, Robert?
Well, I disagree, because everything that you've described to me, or you've described to the listeners and the viewers here, everything you've described, the pain points have been predominantly around the digital. This is more complicated. This took more to do. We needed more staff for that. And those were the pain points. And that's where our inexperience, or you call it naivety. I don't think it's naivety. That's unfair. It's inexperience, because we haven't done that many of them. So would it not be, what event profs normally do is you find the pain point and you make it a strength. You reboot that pain point. And, you know, if you've got a venue that's difficult, you do something like that. So shouldn't we look at the digital first and crack that, and then make the live event better afterwards?
So
I'm not changing what I totally agree with you. The live event is essential, and that's the bit that people want. But don't you do a digital first product that then has an amazing live experience?
I think it depends on your product. I think it depends on the type of event you want to run. So if it's a networking event, which really ICE is all about networking and sharing, then that's why I would go live first. If I was Siemens, or I was IBM, or any of those big companies, I would do digital first. You can't now do an event without both, I hasten to add, you know, like.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, when we basically, we took the things I wish I knew then, we took it offline so people couldn't see it, and we had complaints from the audience at home that they couldn't see it. So
and they've got to come.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really difficult situation, but I think, you know, the takeaway points from this is really clear. It's just when people say it's double the amount of staff, it is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah, definitely. Prepare yourself for a lot more work and get help sooner as well.
With that extra work, do you feel you have the skills for that, or do you want to import more skills?
I want to import more skills.
Definitely, yeah.
Because, you know, I think there's two jobs now in events. Like if I was to recruit someone now, I'd be recruiting someone from TV. You know, someone who's actually done the operation stuff on the TV world, because
producer.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, in the ICE community, you've got enough TV companies, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And so you said about the live and the digital and live, and you both said a live event with a digital output. Something that was mentioned a lot, and it's come up in the chat as well, is about sustainability. So sustainability was really big. It's come up big in the surveys, the ICE survey that you've done. It's getting bigger and bigger all the time. Doesn't a digital presence with more people outside the room than inside the room, doesn't that make it more sustainable? Is that not a good aim?
Well, one of the things that I think is quite interesting on this is just because we're just about to launch SAM, you know, the sustainability app for.
Yeah, I've signed up for it.
Yeah, very good. CO2. So make sure and sign up for it. I think there is an output for this digital. I think we're doubling our CO2 output, for example, because the recording of this stuff, it's sitting somewhere, you know, we're just about to analyze those kind of things. But so I think it will help by people not traveling. Obviously, that's going to be a massive thing to save the planet. But at the same time, if you use things sustainably, if you share cars, if you know, have different ways of integrating some, you know, because it's going to be such a massive thing. We can't avoid it. It's the elephant in the room that everyone's not.
You know, your materials handling was good. Everything you were doing worked really well. The food that you everything that you did had a lower carbon footprint.
Yes.
But as we know, even through COVID, even though air quality's got better, global warming's still gone up. So we're not doing enough.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So tell me about SAM. It would be good if we can measure, the more we measure, the better and more informed decisions we've made. So tell me about SAM and how that can help corporates.
Yeah, so basically SAM is going to be launched in beta version in the autumn. And that's why we're after our beta testers. And it will actually be for delegates as well as suppliers, as well as organisers. So an organiser will set up their event and then invite their suppliers and delegates to go into the portal and basically measure their kind of like travel, etc., you know, like what size truck and all that kind of thing. And then basically there'll be a score at the end of it that you'll get, which will be your kind of like score for organising a roadshow. That's where we'd love to do, is to start getting some data, real data, to be able to start measuring some of this stuff. So when, you know, we are being challenged by our stakeholders about, you know, why should we do this event? Because it's killing the planet. We'll have some data on it as a community that we can be able to share.
And we're going to go a minute or two over. I know it's supposed to be a hard stop at 12:45, but we're just going to go for another couple of minutes. So with the SAM app, obviously it will have, you know, hard infrastructure like you know, your water and your power and whatever, and your transport and things that you'd expect. Can I also measure that studio out the back? You know, how much lithium you're using, how many emails and so forth, the communication, which Jen said was massive. That all costs still, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, so this app, the SAM app, it's actually a web-based app. It's going to be open source code. So our idea, we had to start somewhere. Everyone's been talking about
co-creation.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone can start feeding into it. Exhibition organisers, you know, sort of like live producers and everything else. So we start basically, so it will be available. So if anyone's got any live audience, live producers or anything like that, it'd be great for all of us to basically create this thing for all of us to start measuring, because it is an elephant in the room for events, you know, like they are really bad for the environment, you know, let's face it, you know, like, but they are brilliant for businesses, as we've seen over the last 18 months. They are missing them. So we've got to just do it differently. So this app should be, so things like
you have to learn to do it better, which is, you know, you're talking about lessons learned, and we can, if we collaborate, we can learn very, very quickly. We've learned that. It is a superpower.
Yes. No, definitely.
To close off, can you each, one of Jen and then Anita, just give me one takeaway from this experience, this amazing experience?
One takeaway. I would just, you know, like I said earlier, just prepare for a lot more work, and just get some help and make sure that person is on board a lot. Yeah, get some help. You know, so, you know, understand our, you know, mission, you know, the task that we're trying to achieve. It's just to understand it. Yeah.
No, thank you. Anita, a takeaway for you.
My biggest one is excitement. I think, you know, whilst I've been a little bit negative and not my happy self, normally Jen would tell me off, the square box did fill up over the months, weeks ago, building up. I think it's excitement that we've got something new and a new way of communicating with our audiences. And I think that would be so inclusive for all our audiences. And that thing of not being left out, you know, is so important for everyone. So I'm very excited, if not a little bit exhausted just at the moment.
No, I like that. And I think both practical, but both achievable as well. That's really good. So I can't thank you enough, Anita, Jen. Absolutely amazing to share this. Always very brave to be open and transparent and warts and all. But ICE always does it for its community, its commitment. So carry on following ICE. Sign up for the SAMS app. I know it's a web-based product, as Anita said, but sign up for it because we can make it better and it will grow. And also, ICE Germany have been following us for a few years now. They were dialing in, looking at what we were doing here. It's now your opportunity to do the same thing, because they'll be running their event in December, and you'll be able to tune in and watch that as well. So get involved and we can grow that community. And the more we learn off each other, the quicker we're going to learn. So thank you again so much, both of you.
Thank you so much, and everybody else. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you. Bye now.